Hello my viewers and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we delve into a thought-provoking discussion surrounding the terminology used to describe the African American community. Some argue that the label African American may not accurately represent those who were born and raised in America. Instead, they advocate for the term Black Americans, emphasizing a connection to their American identity. Now, this perspective becomes particularly intriguing when considering instances like sport competitions where athletes are celebrated as representatives of the United States rather than a specific ethnic or cultural background. In exploring this topic further, it's essential to recognize the diverse perspectives within the African American community. Some argue that the term African American reflects a historical and cultural linkage to African roots, acknowledging a heritage that extends beyond American soil. On the other hand, proponents of the label Black Americans often emphasize a desire for a more inclusive and unifying identity that focuses on shared experiences within the United States. So join me as we unpack the layers of identity and terminology that contributes to this ongoing conversation. For now, check out these videos. I will be right back with more details.
The only non-immigrants in America is Black Americans. Everybody else came from somewhere. We all know people came from Europe, but what some don't know is Native Americans came from Asia. This is why every foreigner on this land wants to convince you that you came from somewhere as well. They want to make it seem like these lands was once unoccupied, but for millions of years, America was occupied by melanated people, who are the modern day African Americans today.
I'm always going to be known as a Black American. I can't call myself an African American because when they want to separate us, then they say we are African American. But remember this: when I'm competing in the Olympics, I didn't compete on the African American Olympic team. I competed on the American Olympic team. So don't separate me when you want to separate me.
I am not an African American. I have zero ties to Africa. When I did my DNA, it turned out that I was mixed. I got like 21% like straight Slavic running in me, Slavic Viking. But getting off the DNA, my history is American history. I am an American. So yes, sir, I choose to say blacks and not African Americans because I am not an African American. Also, the trip that we have planned in 2027 to Africa, we have to pay the American rate, not the African rate. If I was African, it would be almost half. Now, the lady right down the street who is actually South African, she pays a far cheaper rate than I do.
You have said that you resent the idea of being called an African American, that
Yes.
you are a Black American.
Yes.
Explain.
I think that when they call Black people who were born and raised for generations in this country, if you accept the handle of African American, that says that you don't accept being an American American. You don't accept being born in Chicago or New York or Detroit or wherever you were born. For generations your family has been here, built this country too. Sweat and tears and all that, fought in every war, okay? So this is my country here. So I don't want to be called African American. I'm an American American. My people died and done everything for this.
Black people know they're not American, but they will fight like hell to protect that identity because they don't want to be identified with who they really are, and that's being African. We hate our Africanity. That's exactly why when I created the Unapologetically African movement, you see how quickly it morphed into Unapologetically Black. I never said unapologetically Black. I said unapologetically African. But even within the Black consciousness community, we are still anti-African because deep down within our subconscious, we were all conditioned by the same superstructure that made us feel that Africa wasn't anything worth claiming. So the blackness is a step away from envy, right? But it's still 10 steps away from your Africanity.
We're raised like that, as a kid. I'm not going to say my parents, but you always know when you get out the hood, you're doing well. When you live with the folks, you're doing well.
Exactly.
When you have a lawyer and your lawyer, you're doing well. When you're an accountant, you're doing well. That's
so your standard of excellence is outside of your community.
Absolutely.
And we're the only people who have a standard of excellence, an ideal to achieve that was created by our oppressors.
Most African Americans don't like to be called Africans. I try to understand this in some of my studies, and I discovered that A lot of African Americans believe that Africa is a zoo.
No, that's not it. It's simply because we are not African. See, there's obviously a lot you don't know about this country. You don't know in this country that we are the indigenous people, the Aboriginal American Indians, because they lied and told you all that we came from there. You don't know that these people came to our land and tried us out. And when they could not physically defeat us, they did something known as paper. They took our ancestors and reclassified them from Aboriginal American Indians or black or colored, and they replaced us with Siberian Eskimos and Mongolians. Our ancestors fought to get our rights back, but what did this government do? They took all the things we were supposed to get and gave it to these invaders, these Mongolians, these Siberians, and these Europeans who only had to pay $5 to claim our identity. This was the very first April Fool's joke. Go look it up. Not only that, they have brainwashed and confused a lot of Aboriginal American Indians to thinking that they are actually from Africa. They use people like Jesse Jackson, Dr. Umar, Al Sharpton, all to push this ideology that we came from Africa when we did not. And because you guys are lied to and manipulated by our media, you also fell into this trap of believing that we are African. But what you don't realize is when you get on the internet and make videos like this saying that we all come from Africa, you are contributing, stating that all neuromelanated people came from one place and they inhabited the rest of the world, which is just... Yes, you and I, an Aboriginal American Indian and an Aboriginal African, are the same species, not neither, so we might share some features. But my people never came from Africa. We are original, indigenous to this land, just like you are to Africa. And it is now the age of enlightenment. So we are fighting and reclaiming our identity. And this is why we refuse to let you, the $5 Native American, the European, or anyone else misclassify us anymore. We are not African. We are not African American. We are not black. We are the indigenous Tamarians, the Aboriginal American Indians, the Mississippians, the Californians, the Choctaw, the Niji. We are the American Indian. Peace to the God.
Africans see African Americans as Africans. You're going to have people that say, oh, Africans don't see African Americans as Africans. They see us as foreigners. I've been to the African continent. I've lived on the African continent. I studied at the University of Johannesburg for an exchange program. One of the questions I was constantly asked was, where are you from? I'd say the United States. They would ask me, where are you really from? They're implying an African country. Because as a black American, when you are on the African continent, Africans don't know you're from the States until you start speaking. They assume you're just another African. So I would have to say a region in Africa because I'm not sure, because of the slave trade. But because we as African Americans, as well as Afro-Caribbeans and those in the diaspora, are black, we blend in. This is why I don't like this whole African versus African Americans versus Afro-Caribbean. Y'all acting like if we dropped y'all in Nigeria, if we dropped y'all in Haiti, if we dropped y'all in the Bahamas, that they finna know you from the States. Yeah, when you start talking, they're gonna know, okay, he has an accent, where is he from? But until that point is asked, you just another African person walking around in the society. Just like you got this debate between African American culture, Afro-Caribbean culture, and African. Like we don't exchange from one another. Like you a black American ain't African, but you eating yams and okra all the time. You an African who said we ain't got no connection with African Americans, but you listening to hip hop and Afrobeat. You say you ain't Afro-Caribbean, but some of your ancestors come from the Barbados and Haiti, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. Well, Jabari, we weren't born there. We aren't from there. They're going to know we're different. Yeah, just like a black person from Mississippi is different from a black person in Ohio. A black person from the Bronx is different from a black person who's from LA. A black person from Enugu is different from a black person in Kano. A black person from Johannesburg is different from a black person from Cape Town. Quit the unnecessary divisions. Africans see African Americans as well as other members of the diaspora as Africans. That don't mean it's kumbaya. It means we are part of the African family, whether or not you live on the continent or abroad. I will go even further and say African American, along with Afro-Caribbean and Afro-Latino culture, all are a part of African culture. They are subsets unique to their own circumstances. And y'all can rep your culture, because that's what makes African culture special.
Now, delving into our discussion, it's crucial to acknowledge the historical context that surrounds the terminology used to describe the African American community. The term African American, according to them, emerged as a conscious effort to recognize and honor the ancestral ties of Black individuals to Africa, acknowledging a heritage often marred by the painful legacy of slavery. However, as generations have passed and a distinct American culture has evolved, some argue that the term may not fully capture the nuanced identities of those who consider themselves Black Americans. Now, in various conversations, individuals have expressed a preference for the term Black Americans, citing a desire for a more straightforward and inclusive identifier that emphasizes their American upbringing and experiences. So this perspective gains traction, especially in arenas like sports, where athletes proudly represent the United States on the global stage. The question arises, does the emphasis on a broader American identity in such contexts underscore the need for a more universally applicable term? Now, examining sports competitions, we often hear commentators and fans alike celebrate athletes as representatives of the United States, regardless of their ethnic or cultural background. Now, this prompts reflection on the role of identity in these high-profile scenarios, where a shared national allegiance takes procedure over individual ethnic labels. As we navigate these complexities, it's essential to consider how language shapes perceptions both within the African American community and in the broader social narrative. Furthermore, this conversation extends beyond semantics, touching upon the broader issue of identity and representation. So by exploring the dynamic of terminology, we gain insight into the multifaceted layers of the African American experience. So as we go on, stay tuned as we continue to unravel the intricate threads of this ongoing dialogue, fostering a deeper understanding of the power of language in shaping cultural narratives. Now, digging deeper into the discourse, it's crucial to acknowledge the diverse perspectives within the African American community regarding the choice between African American and Black American. Some argue that the term African American serves as a reminder of a rich cultural heritage, fostering a connection to ancestral roots that extend beyond American shores. Now, it encapsulates a broader narrative of resilience, survival, and the ongoing pursuit of equity. Now, conversely, proponents of the label Black American often emphasize a desire for a more inclusive and unifying identity that transcends specific ethnic or geographical affiliations. So this perspective contends that the emphasis should shift towards shared experiences within the United States, emphasizing the commonality of being American, regardless of racial background. Now, the debate gains complexity when considering issues of representation and belonging. In various fields, including arts, politics, and academia, individuals navigate the intricate balance between honoring heritage and embracing a distinctly American identity. Now, the tension between these labels is not just a matter of semantics, but reflects the broader quest for a self-defined, empowering identity. Moreover, this discussion intersects with ongoing dialogues about race, belonging, and social justice. So by scrutinizing the language we use, we uncover layers of societal expectations, biases, and the evolving narrative of the American experience. So as we continue our exploration, it's essential to remain mindful of the lived experiences and diverse perspectives that contribute to this complex tapestry of identity within the African American community. Now, quite alright, the significance of the terminology, whether African American or Black American, varies among individuals who were born and raised in America. For some, the choice reflects a deeper connection to the ancestral roots, cultural heritage, and a history shaped by the struggles of the African diaspora. Others may prioritize a label that emphasizes their American identity, focusing on shared experiences within the United States. The importance of this distinction often relates to personal identity, cultural pride, and the desire for accurate representation. It's a nuanced conversation, and different individuals within the African American community may have varying perspectives on which term resonates more strongly with their sense of self and community. But coming to think of it, how did all Americans end up calling Black people African American? I mean, not all Black people come from Africa. I've always been confused by this, and I actually asked an American friend of mine, and trust me, she couldn't give me an answer. But what do you, my viewers, have to say about this topic? Kindly share your views in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video as I bring you another interesting video.